You cannot make a monster loyal. My head needs to just comprehend what just happened. She needs to outsmart him. And we are jumping in to Alchemized by SenLinYu. This is my first spoiler-filled reading vlog. So if you haven't read this, please click away. I'm so excited to finally read this book, and I feel like I'm the last person on the planet to do so. Hopefully a lot of you have already read this and you can keep watching along. So I just read the prologue, beautifully written. It sets up as a story about endurance and about hope. We are following Helena in the first chapter here, and we are listening to people speak about these people who are being held hostage, and they're referencing Helena. They speak a bit about her resilience, that she's not a person to just give in and give up. Seems like Helena is a special person since they alter her brain in some way or another, and that is unheard of in this world. She mentioned something that Helena didn't understand. She said, "I'm sorry, we should have listened to you." I'm just gonna underline that. I don't know what it means yet. Seems like Helena doesn't either. Either Helena doesn't remember because it's one of the parts of her brain that has been altered and hidden away, or she just really doesn't know what Penny is referring to. Imagine the torture of smelling rot and just being stuck next to it. Okay, SenLinYu, I must give it to you. You just gave me the ick. And her vision became one-sided. She took her eyeball out. Your eye is out of the socket, and you have a deep puncture in the white. That took her eye out? She took her freaking eye out. Please say we can fix it, please. He might be able to repair the tissue, but he wouldn't be able to restore her vision? No, come on now. Yeah, I'm on page 230. I thought I would only get to 90 today. I am really enjoying this. This is such a good read. I know we will soon hit part 2. I'm intrigued to see what's up with the resistance, who's still out there, and how about Murrow and his life ending? What happens after that? Who sort of takes over? Would that totally flip the script and even the playing field for the resistance? What happens after that? Because surely he's not the only person in power. Like, does he have a say in this? Man, I hope he does. I hope he does, because, oh my god. I'm just gonna step away from the book just for 5-10 minutes and then resume the reading. My head needs to just comprehend what just happened. What the hell just happened? This chapter I'm in right now, this is the first chapter in part 2 of the book. So in part 2, we are opening up with getting some background into Helena's past, and I guess also the background to a lot of her trauma. We are looking directly into how the war is, and we are meeting some of her friends officially for the first time, because we've only heard about them. But now we have some flashbacks, so we are back in time before everything happened in part 1. This is the state of things. So it's interesting to see how things evolve from here and how we sort of tie it back to the original plotline. I am still very unwell after reading some of the scenes yesterday. Make sure that you can handle the triggers. If you can't, please stay away from this. As said, this is really dark. I think it was really difficult to get through some of those chapters. Now we're meeting Jan Crowther, who we just learned at the end of part 1 is still alive. My guess is, just from reading this first chapter in part 2, my guess is that the pacing will slow down, and this is potentially where most people will drop off. This is just a glimpse back into her past and why things happened the way that they did. Okay, that's quite funny. Ilva said, seems like I'm doomed never to have an easy conversation with you. I guess every time they meet, it's under impossible circumstances, so that's a little funny. But she says, we are losing the war, and Helena seems to agree. Do you remember Cain Farron? Everyone remembered Cain Farron. He murdered Luke's father by ripping out his heart at the foot of the alchemy tower. He'd been 16, just another student. Without warning, he committed the worst crime in Palladia's history. You know what? I call it. I don't think he actually killed Principate Apollo. I don't know, something in me tells me that he didn't do it, but he's covering up for someone or something. Because every time he's confronted with this question, he's like, do you want a confession? Doesn't seem like he's like standing his ground and proud of what he did or the cause of which he did it. Her best friend Luke, he's dead. There was a scene previously where she has a flashback to her and him sitting, I think, on a rooftop or something. And he was taking opium. It got under her skin that he was taking drugs. Right now, flash forward to a flashback. She is practicing this skill of avoiding animancy, anyone to read her mind and her secrets. She is actually testing this out and practicing with Farron, and in this session they are practicing until her head thrums, and he wants to relieve her pain and help her get through this, and he actually gives her an opium. So what could Luke have done or practiced or been exposed to in order for him to use the same drug? He has offered to spy for the resistance. What? He wants a full pardon for his wartime activities, and there was something about the way Ylva said it that made Helena feel that a pardon was not all Farron had asked for. He wants you, Marino. Both now and after the war. Why would he want her? Is this why he's doing all that he can for her to remember what happened? So that she can remember that he wants her? Is this why he's doing so much and being so kind to her? Because it says Farron was quite specific that you have to be willing. You have to be willing. He doesn't want to force her. He also called her Holdfast's little pet. I don't like that. Granted, it could be jealousy. That doesn't make it okay though. But at least that explains why he does it. I cannot say the same for Strahd. This quote made me angry. It made me angry on her behalf. Yeah, I'll read it. I wrote asshole in the margins. Okay. This is Matthias talking to Helena, and he's bossing her around, and she's mentioning that she's not educated enough to help with a certain healing case, and he's pushing her and telling her that she must do it anyways. And then he finishes off with, if you are suspected of any violation of that body, I will have your hands cut off and your soul cursed to sink in the dark fires of the earth. Do I make myself clear? There are several instances like that. Also, we need to talk about all the plot twists. Right now, I'm at a really pivotal stage of the story where Helena is talking with Ylva. I think this is one of the biggest plot twists so far. Ylva is mentioning that a lot of the things that they believe in is a farce. It's not real. That there was no plague. That parts of their religion is made up. And this is what the resistance is following so blindly. Ylva is feeding this. She's feeding these stories to the resistance and making them believe in a greater cause. And she thinks that she's doing it to benefit them. But really, it's hurting them because they are waiting around for miracles that aren't coming. This changes Helena's perception a bit on Ylva, because previous to this, she had a conversation with Farron, and he tried to open her eyes and tell her that, hey, these people you are, whose side you're on, are you actually sure that you are fighting for the right cause? And are you sure that these people aren't taking advantage of you? And she was actually defending them. She was not at all doubtful about their intentions. But then at the beginning conversation with Ylva, she began to see Ylva through different eyes. And now she's hearing this. And it's not sitting right with Helena. So I'm intrigued to see where we will go after that. At the beginning of part 1, I mentioned this. They were trying to figure out how Helena could suppress or hide some of her memories. And she was like this guinea pig that they kept testing and looking at and trying to figure out. And this high necromancer had at the top of his priority list to figure this out, to get to those memories, to figure out the secret of the resistance. And on page 338, we figure out that he taught her to do this. And here's the quote. An interrogator won't stop until they have valuable information. If you're captured, there's nothing you'll be able to do to stop it. But if they think you're weak, they won't look carefully. You have to give up something valuable enough that it seems legitimate as a way to keep things that matter the most hidden. I was baffled when I read that. Now that Helena has used the amulet on Farron and he's become even stronger than before, rumors were that Murrow had a new weapon. Apparently, it's Farron. And that's because Helena healed him and used the amulet and it fused with him, and now he's just even stronger than ever. And Ylva is seeing this as a threat, especially towards Luke. He's the guy we're fighting for, right? And now Ylva's had enough. She says she's going to have him killed. And Helena was like, no, please don't kill him. Please don't kill him. And she's like, what's he to you? But Helena has developed feelings for him. It's obvious. She has begged Ylva for some time to make him loyal to their cause and the eternal flame. And Ylva said, you cannot make a monster loyal. And she's like, no, I think I can do it. Please just give me some time. Please, I can do it. And then Ylva said, okay, you have 1 month. 1 month, and if he's not crawling on his knees at your feet and he's not controllable, off with his head. Not in those words, but you know what I mean. So that just upped the ante and made it a bit more high stake for Helena. I think this guy Matthias is out to get our girl Helena. He signed off on her going and being in charge at the front lines during an attack. Mind you, Lila is confirmed pregnant by Luke and she's on house arrest, or they have faked a sickness for her. They won't tell Luke that she's pregnant or anyone else because in this society and in this time, it's frowned upon. Now it's being hidden from everyone. Back to the attack. Yeah, so Falcon Matthias signs off on her going to the front lines of this mission. She's very confused because she's supposed to stay back at the headquarters and take care of the wounded. But all of a sudden she's handed a slip of paper saying that she should go to the front lines. She meets Althorn on this mission, and he's fully aware that Farron has this clause, I guess you could say, or this condition that she is to be kept safe. Oh, then she says, Matthias signed off on this order and dispatched me here. I can't find the radio to get the permission to return. And this just goes to show that she has no authority, she has no autonomy, she can do nothing without the permission of these people. But then he says, go back to headquarters, First Laurie, tell them I ordered it. The last thing we need is Farron going off the rails. And then she notices him not wearing a mask because this is an attack and they have this substance in the air that is really difficult to breathe in. She also meets a little boy. One of the soldiers moaned, Mom. And then his helmet was crushed around his skull. One side of his face was mangled. There was a thick oozing of blood from his head. Mom, he said. And then Helena answered, she'll be here soon. Mom, sorry. I forgot to say goodbye. Sorry. It's all right. Don't worry, she said. His fingers relaxed through her to slip her hand free. She looked down. He was dead. She's really hurt at this point. Yeah, then her eyes slid shut after some struggling. But then ultimately she opened her eyes again and Kane was standing right beside her, having a full medical team do surgery on her. Remember when I talked about Kane not really owning up to killing Luke's father? And I didn't feel like he actually did it, or maybe he was just taking blame for someone. Turns out he had no choice but to do it. His mother was being severely tortured, and we get a bit insight into why Kane has been turned into this monster, because he used to be human just like her. When they went to school together, turns out it was the only way he could save his mother, but it was in vain in the end anyhow, and that is why he wants revenge on Murrow, because he was the one who experimented with his mom. Kane was a witness to all this torture, and everything he did for her, to save her, and now to avenge her. If that didn't soften me up a bit towards Kane, I don't know what would. Helena got back to the headquarters and she's having a conversation with this girl, Pace. And Pace is mentioning all of the fallout that has been happening while Helena was recovering at Kane's. And Althorn dead. We learned that Ilvet died as well. Yes. Go Helena, go Helena, go Helena, go Helena. Yes! Seems like our girl finally found her voice. She comes back. She is talking to Crowther for the first time in a long time. There's a part of her that wants to just stick it to Crowther and tell him, go yourself. But she can't do that because of Kane, and he would be in danger if she did that. So she needs to outsmart him. And all this time, she's been marinating on how she can get the upper hand on Crowther whilst protecting Kane. And she's really smart, our girl. We talked about being underestimated and undervalued and underappreciated and taken advantage of. And this is what Crowther have done all this time throughout this war. Prior to the attack where she got injured, she was testing a few things in the lab. She was trying to reverse engineer sort of what Murrow has done. She knows that she can't kill all the Necrothals, but if she can reverse engineer what he's done, she might be able to eliminate the threat altogether. And she's come up with a few successful attempts. Now she's decided it's the time to tell Crowther to get some leverage on him. Crowther looked sharply at her. Are you sure? He says, bring them. I'll see who I can pass off the idea to. Sort of dismissing her. And she has outsmarted him, because then she says, you must be very busy now. Indeed I am. I'll help you, but I want something in return. And what is that? Pray tell. I want to know and approve every order you are giving King. Yes, Helena. Yes, yes, yes. That's my girl. I knew she had it in her. I told you she was strong. Now she's finally coming into herself and realizing what these people are using her for and how they are not valuing her. And now she has to stand her ground and protect what's hers. Go, Helena, go. Also, this Shaseo guy, we meet him in part 1. And he's working for Muro in that part. He's also working with Helena in the past. And every time he's mentioned as this type of guy who keeps to himself, who never shares anything personally, and it's sort of sketchy. But she glances over that. She never has this feeling that he's not trustworthy. But I have a feeling that he's a mole, or he's playing them somehow. Or at the very least, then he's captured later on and he just has to do what Muro says. That is also a possibility. And then he ends up like Kane or someone else who's just a slave. But Shaseo, I'm watching you. I am watching you. I touched upon the topics of this book. I mentioned like xenophobia, all of that. But there's also really, really nasty, misogynistic quotes in this book. And it makes you want to throw up. Everything a woman can do, a man can do better, sort of. And it's just, this book makes you angry at times. It really does. That's the intended effect. We are just now reading one of her flashbacks from part 1. So now we're reading it in real time, which is not, but you know what I mean. Where Luke is smoking opium. I mentioned this to you previously, but now we are reading it as the events happened. And I'm so curious to see why this event stuck out in Helena's mind and was a part of her flashbacks. What happened here? What really went down between her and Luke? I know that Luke has dismissed her because of what happened to Soren, but I really want to know what goes on from here on out. And I don't know if this is a pivotal moment for the story, but I just wanted to catch you guys up to that. And I'm going to continue eating my candy and reading on. That was definitely a false alarm. Nothing happened. Nothing except Luke having his head stuck up his own ass and Helena trying to talk sense into him. That was it. That was the scene. I thought it would be more. It wasn't. Sometimes we don't know why memories stick. Could be that was the last time she spoke to Luke. They've just gathered again, the resistance / the eternal flame. And Helena came to Crowther, even though she hates him, with all her might, and said, I want to build a bomb. She wants to include obsidian in it, and perhaps even nullium, which nullium was the chemical in the air at the previous attack. They are now speaking about it, and let's see. Now she's asking if Kane can place the bomb, and he says that no one pays attention to necrothralls the way they should. They assume anyone could use them, must be on their side. If I rip out the reanimation, I can take over someone else's and use them to make the delivery. It won't be easily tracked back to me. And then she says, I can give you the bomb tomorrow. And he says, no, Crowther is not using you to deliver a bomb. Okay, so it's right before the next attack. Helena is briefly visiting Lila to check in on her and her pregnancy and figures out that Luke knows. All of a sudden, she is reminded of him and that she really feels like she needs to see him. She doesn't internalize why. She searches everywhere through the headquarters and runs into Elaine, who is bearing like a tray with a bunch of syringes. And as Helena is this a superstar healer, she can quickly decipher that some of these things should not be combined. We talked about the opium, but now he is in severe danger and he's too young to take some of these medications. And then she asks Elaine, who approved this? And then Elaine said, I'm his healer. And then we jump to the next chapter, which I have not read on. I am curious to see why he needs all this stuff. something is very, very wrong, or he is mentally really unstable. One of the two. We just got an answer into why Luke is taking opium. Apparently he's suffering from brain fevers, and that is why Elaine has to sedate him. So that's the reason. Nothing deeper than that. But still, at least we got an answer. Okay, Helena is talking to Pace about Luke's brain fevers, and Helena is pretty sure that the only thing that can cause these brain fevers are animancy. And especially because he keeps saying, get them out, get them out. So, when they went to rescue Luke previously, they thought that Murrow hadn't put a talisman in him. They had checked Luke again and again for a talisman, but the only way he could have a talisman in him that would be undetectable was if it was coated in lunithium. So that is what Helena suspects that Luke has been exposed to, which would be very sad. That would also explain his animosity towards Helena. Things are starting to come together. And the plot thickens. The Undying have taken headquarters, and Helena did suspect that something would happen since Luke has been altered with. We are in Helena's head on page 800, and she is thinking about how impossible it would be for the Undying to infiltrate the headquarters. And what she says is, the Undying would need extensive information about their security protocols to infiltrate, a spy with a high-level security clearance to get in, and intimate knowledge to create necrothralls with the right instructions. How could it have happened? With no word, no distress signals. I have two theories. Either Luke has been compromised, Lila has been compromised, or Shazeo. One of the three. Since reading part 1, I've been looking sideways at Shazeo. Luke has now been in the hands of Murrow, and Lila was also severely injured previously. We don't know if she could have a talisman inside of her or what. She's also been really, really absent, and I know it's due to pregnancy, but those are the things that spring to mind. She is now speaking to Luke. Luke just came in, and she says she needs to speak to him urgently. Either it's because of his condition and the brain fevers, or she has suspicions for Lila. She just said, we need to talk, and he said, who brought her in here? And she was like, we need to talk, it's urgent, it's about Lila. And that got his attention. But if that was just an excuse, she didn't let show. So it's not Luke in his body, it's someone else named Cetus. Wait, Cetus is Orion's brother? I am on page 830, and I know exactly how Helena will get trapped. And it's by not listening to Cain. See, they're both trying to protect one another, and this is just so heartbreaking because they are putting each other... Well, no. Cain is not putting her in danger. He's putting himself in danger. But now she... I understand why she's doing it, but okay, let me give you some context. So, when he was about to take her and Lila away from everything, she said, I have one more condition. And he said, no, you promised you would leave as soon as you got Lila. But then she said, no, I need Shazeo because I need to tell him a few things, or I need him to understand a few things before I go. My first thought was that now Shazeo will have his chance at sabotaging them. Because, you know, I've my thoughts about Shazeo. I might eat my words because this is more and more unlikely. Anywho, she said, can your chimera carry all of us? And he said, no, I need to take 2 trips. And then she said, you will travel with Lila first while I talk with Shazeo. The trip will be a couple of hours. Then Shazeo comes in and they have a chance to talk. And she says, go now. So I can explain this to him. There's no need for you to hear all of this. Shazeo then says, you wanted to talk and you needed my help with something. And then she said, no, I just needed Cain out of here and for you to bring me the stuff. Because I'm building bomb. And the reason for it is that once Kane blew his cover, the only way he could get Lila out of Bennett's lab was by having his name on a record, because this lab is very protected and has very high security standards. So that was the only way he could get her out without killing everyone and creating a frenzy. Now Helena wants to bomb the lab to erase all of the records with Kane's name. And she's going by herself, without Shazeo, without anyone. And this is how she's gonna get trapped by Murrow. I just know it. Now it all makes sense. And this is so sad because he will come back and realize that she's gone. And all he's doing this for is for her. And he just wants to protect her. Oh my god. Helena placed the bomb. It went off. But now she's on the run. Nolium is in the air. And she's being weakened. She had prepared for this. She had made a concoction. She slammed that into her heart. And now she's running for her life. We are listening to her thoughts. She feels terrible about leaving Kane the way she did. She left him a little scribbly note with I love you, I love you, I love you on it, which is just heartbreaking. But now she has seen two people, Althorn and Lancaster. And they are wanting to take her. This might be it for Helena. This might be it. So now Helena has finally been captured. She has a little battle. She has a battle with Lancaster. Ew, I hate that guy. And he realizes that she needs to have her arms broken in order to stop using obsidian on all the necrothralls. And he yells, break her arm, and then all of a sudden he dies, and then she feels something slamming over her head. She wakes up. She's in a cage with Pace, who's trying to heal her as best as she can. And now they're witnessing gruesome stuff throughout this prison, if you will. They are back in headquarters, or Central, as we get to know it in part 1. Oh my god, now we finally get the answers to why they cannot find out the secrets Helena is hiding. Because now that she's captured and she overhears someone say that this one is supposed to be interrogated, Helena does, I guess, one last action of love towards Kane. She realizes that for the past 2 years, Kane has been everything that was on her mind. And if she breaks during interrogation because she knows what torture can do to people, then he would be tortured, but he would not be tortured until death. He would be tortured indefinitely because he's undying. So she does what she thinks and deems necessary. She uses her own animancy to suppress all of her memories of Kane. She buries those memories deep down under memories of Luke. Memories of Luke, of how he wanted to be remembered. So that is what she replaces it with. And perhaps that's why through part 1, we only hear her talk about Luke every time she remembers something. Oh my gosh, she's actually trying to talk about him. Okay, so this is the final page before part 3, and we catch up to the initial timeline. And this is just heartbreaking because Kane has realized that Helena is gone and her ring is burning hot several times. And she's forcing herself to forget him. And she hopes that if he ever realizes that he will understand. That is so sad. Okay, I didn't think this book was going to get me. But here we are. Everything comes rushing back to Helena, her memories, everything she's been suppressing subconsciously for years. And Kane is revealing that throughout his house, everything is monitored by Murrow, I guess through these nasty eyes he has everywhere. And there's only one room, and that's the room she was training with him in. And in this room, Murrow cannot see what goes on. And this is where they can have honest conversations. He then tells her that Lila is south And his plan is for Helena to go join her in the south, and she will blend right in. She looks like them. Anywho, he's not been looking for Helena alone. He went looking everywhere. The only place he didn't look was in the tanks, and that's where Helena was kept. She stayed at the midway point when we went looking for you, when we tried to find you. We, she said, so then she thinks there were survivors. Shazeo, I was wrong about that guy the whole entire time. I feel so bad. He was on the right side. They fled to safety. Lila, Paul, who's her son, Enid, who is Cain and Helena's daughter, and Cain and Helena are now collectively together on this island. Some time has passed, and they are living there happily ever after. Except now that the war is over and other countries are getting involved and trying to fix Paladia, Lila wants to go back and avenge Luke. She has a son. Like, why? I feel like this is pointless. What an ending. I had to just remove myself. First, I thought that there was something I was missing. Secondly, this book will have you feel a lot of feelings. But somehow I feel so mad that this is the end. I feel like Helena deserved so much more. As I said previously, she was so self-sacrificing. I know she chose this fate. She chose not to be remembered. Part of me really respects that choice. And it also makes the story much more realistic. The sentence that comes to mind is, true heroes don't always wear capes. And at the end, she chose what was enough for her. I know we live in this world where recognition and acceptance seems like a currency, seems like it's the most important thing. And it saddens me that she's been undervalued her whole life. And even when things are good, or as good as they can be, she's still underappreciated. I think she won regardless, because in the end she began to make choices of her own, and she began to stand up for what she really wanted in life, no matter the cost. And she was so strong for doing that while being really traumatized. I think this book will stay with me for a very long time. My expectations, I'm not gonna lie, they were through the roof. Did this deliver on those expectations? And when I say expectations, I mean epic, emotional, high stakes, all of that. Did this deliver on that? Yeah, it did. Is it a full 5-star rating? We'll get into that. People say that in order for a book to be a romance, it has to have a happy ending, and there are a few other things that it has to deliver on. And then other people are saying that this is a love story. I feel like it's both. To me, at least, that part of the book was the part that I felt was fleshed out the most, besides the magic system. See, the only place where this book falls a bit flat for me is the depth of the other characters. We have a lot of flashbacks with Helena and Luke and all of this, and we get to know why it's important for her, also because she's been indoctrinated in this world. But when characters die or get ill or injured, I wanted to care much more about them and about the stakes of that. But the fact of the matter is that SenLinYu wrote this romance in such a beautiful way that it overtook my care for the other characters. And perhaps I'm the only one in the world who feels this way. But I didn't care for the other characters. Not really. I was curious about Shizeo, and I also mentioned that several times. But the rest of the characters, I didn't really care for. I really only cared about Helena. Maybe that was intentional, maybe it wasn't. But for such a long book, I expect to have more of a found family aspect, and I felt like SenLinYu was trying to give us that with Lila and her child. It didn't really land, not with me at least. I needed more emotional connection with more characters. When that is said and done, what the others lacked in terms of my connection with them, Helena and Cain delivered on. I was sucked in to their romance and the stakes surrounding them. I was really, really invested in their love story. And if you ask me, I know people say this is a fantasy, but from my perspective, that's where this book shines. 5 stars for Alchemized. That is it for this reading blog. I hope you enjoyed it, the spoiler-filled one. It was fun. It was fun to share my thoughts along the way. I think there is nothing else to say except please subscribe if you like this type of content, and let me know in the comments if there is anything else you'd like to see. There's nothing else to say except until next chapter, babes. Cue the millennial outro.